next guest is celebrated celebrity chef and author Sara Moulton. Sara's TV career began in the late 70s when she worked behind the scenes on public television's Julia Child and More Company. Her friendship with Julia guided Sara from behind the scenes to in front of the camera. Sara is one of Food Network's original stars, hosting Cooking Live, followed by Sara's Secrets. You can now see her on Sara's Weeknight Meals, airing on PBS. We got a sneak preview into Sara's home kitchen, where she filmed her iPhone app, Sara's Kitchen, before we went to grab some lunch at the delicious neighborhood Italian restaurant, Tre Dici, located on 26th Street and 6th Avenue, featuring the food of Chef Giuseppe Finelli.
Welcome to my kitchen.
Thank you. And I love the fact that your app is aptly named Sara's Kitchen.
Shot the whole thing here.
I would love to know all about your iPad application, iPhone application, and how it started, and where you started getting your recipe ideas for it, because you pulled it from some of your cookbooks.
But mainly it was all from my cookbooks, but sort of the best of. And, and then I had to retest them. It was 60 recipes, 60 photos. I retested them as we were doing it and tweaked them and made them even more modern.
One of the things that I was absolutely thrilled with that I saw, which is something that could be a harrowing experience for you, is that you can actually ask you a question on your application.
I was pretty frightened too, but people have been taking advantage of it, but not as much as I thought.
Okay. Can you explain what that is and why you decided to put that on your application?
Well, I've sort of been known as the answer person because I did the show on the Food Network for 10 years. Well, that show I did for 6 years, which was a live call-in show, and people would call in with questions. And so I would have the answer. So I'm the answer person. That's sort of how people know me. So it was their idea to add it.
I wanted to show the audience this really special picture you have over here.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's wonderful. Can you tell me all of the wonderful women that are in this photo?
Well, this is obvious. This is Julia Child.
Yes.
And that's me. And I worked with Julia in the late 70s on her show called Julia Child and More Company. Okay. And so I was one of the food stylists, and we all developed the recipes. This woman here is Marion Morash. She happens to be married to Russell Morash, who was the director, producer. Okay. And Julia lovingly referred to him as the Ayatollah, because he was very bossy, but she loved him. And this woman here, so we both sort of did the same thing. Marion was in charge, and I was the second in command, but we developed recipes and did food styling. This woman's name is Temmie Hyde, and she was a volunteer on the show. And she's a very elegant sort of Cambridge woman or Boston woman, and she sort of would fuss around the edges. And we stopped and had lunch when we taped this thing, which is crazy, one big long table. Yeah. And she made sure we had flatware and wine glasses and wine, and it was so elegant.
The experience of eating and dining, which I love.
Yeah.
Well, what was it like when you first met her? Was there an intimidation, an admiration, or
both?
Okay.
Oh, I thought she was God, you know, and I did till the day she died. And I was a nervous wreck. You know, I had to pretend that I wasn't a nervous wreck just so I could carry on. You know, it's hard being next to that much greatness, but I will say, she was easy to be around.
Okay.
She was the odd thing that people ask me, what's the most unusual thing you could say about her? She was one of the funniest people I ever met.
I got a sense of that from her show. She seemed to have a sense of humor.
Well, she was very campy, but in real life, she just said what was on her mind. And it was so refreshing and also shocking at the same time. And occasionally, not that this is something she'd like to be remembered for, you know, she dropped the F-bomb. I mean, she would say whatever was on her mind, and you'd be like, really? Okay, then.
I'd love to look at the other aspects of your kitchen here.
Okay, many, many things. So I love the counter. Yeah, it's granite, and this is going to sound so dorky, but, well, granite's a great surface because it doesn't really stain. You have to seal it. But what I love is that when I'm looking at it, I feel like I'm looking down through clear water down to the bottom of the beach. Beautiful. So you're looking at all the little pebbles. Yeah. I don't know why. It just makes me feel happy. But I have this cool cabinetry that it's very fancy, so it goes in by itself.
Oh, nice. And it closes very quietly.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
And then this, so you can stack all your pans, you know, so you don't kill your back like pulling it all out. That's really fun. I'm short, as you may have noticed.
A little bit.
Right. So even though this counter is slightly shorter than it should be, they talked me out of making it really the right size because they're like, then you can't resell the house. Of course, I don't want to resell the house anyway. So we did this. Ready?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to pull these both out together.
That is so
and generally I work on this side because I'm left-handed, right? But, you know, chop, 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 throw it into the garbage. Chop, 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 throw it in the garbage.
Absolutely.
Because this is that much lower, so it works for me.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so that's
beautiful.
That's really great. Yeah, those are my favorite things.
Well, if this kitchen has actually made me a little bit hungry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And you have recommended a really wonderful restaurant.
Yeah, it's a cute little Italian restaurant. It's a neighborhood restaurant.
Okay.
Rule number 1, your favorite restaurants are the ones you should go to where they know you.
Okay.
I know the chef. He's absolutely adorable. Okay. And
what is his name?
Giuseppe Finelli.
Giuseppe Finelli.
There we go, yes.
Okay,
and it's just a couple of blocks from here.
All right,
Tre
fantastic.
Dici, which actually means 13 in Italian.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I was thinking French, but that sounds great.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I'm excited to go.
All right.
So thank you for showing me your kitchen. It's beautiful.
My pleasure. Very proud of it.
Well, we left off at your beautiful apartment. I love that you were getting ready to talk about Julia Child and cooking for her the first time. What was that like?
Oh gosh, I was such a nervous wreck. I mean, I think it's actually true for any dinner party. The hardest part of the dinner party is deciding what you're going to make.
Yeah.
And she and Paul were coming to, my parents have a farmhouse in Massachusetts, and we were up there, and I was like, what the hell do I make, you know? And I don't remember the whole menu, but I remember, among other things, I made this wonderful dish for my friend Jean Anderson, which is oven-baked fried chicken. It's not fried.
Okay.
What you do is you take cut up chicken, you dip it in garlic butter, and you dip it in 3-part breadcrumbs to 1-part Parmesan cheese, and you bake it.
Sounds amazing.
And you can eat it at room temp. So I made that and many other things, but I was a wreck.
Were you watching her reaction while she was eating the food?
Yeah, she tucked into it. And he was like, oh, this is delicious, dearie. You know, I was like, oh, phew. You know, I just made sure there was wine. And also her favorite hors d'oeuvre was goldfish. You know, those those cheese goldfish.
Okay,
she loved those, yeah.
Okay.
But I also cooked with her at her house, and that was nerve-wracking as well. Particularly because she'd have all these important guests over, like Simone Beck, who was one of the other authors of Mastering the Art of French Cooking. And that was the night she cut herself and went to the hospital.
Okay.
And I was left getting ready for the dinner party without, you know, and I heard that Simone Beck was not a very nice person, so I wasn't really looking forward to it anyway.
Right. Well, you've been under a lot of intimidating circumstances because you have your own show, and you've had very successful shows, and you have a new show on PBS right now.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about the show?
Yes, it's called Sarah's Weeknight Meals. It's all about getting dinner on the table during the work week. So it's all entrees, but trying to rethink dinner. So breakfast for dinner, soup for supper, the substantial sandwich, and as much as possible putting everything into one plate, one dish, one pot, so you don't have to do a lot of things, because I really want people to be cooking more.
I like that.
But, and have fun.
I think people are intimidated, I think, sometimes by cooking just because it's sometimes when you're at the grocery store, you're just overwhelmed by the choices and how to mix these different things together. Do you have any advice when you go to a grocery store?
Don't ever go to a grocery store without a plan, without a list. So at the very least, what I recommend on a Sunday afternoon is sitting down and at least coming up with 5 things in each category, sort of like a Chinese menu, A, B, and C. Protein, starch, if you're still eating a lot of starch, like my son needs it, you know, and vegetables, you know. I mean, I can't imagine going to the grocery store after work, you know, and going like, oh, what's for dinner? I mean, it's not like I'm, you know, the chef, you know, squeezing the eggplants in the farmer's market. I'm a working mom like anybody else.
In and out of the grocery store. Well, and I've said this before, but you know, you have this wonderful confidence. You're great in front of the camera, but of course you had to start somewhere. What was your beginnings like? When did you know you wanted to be a chef?
Well, being a chef is very different than being in front of the camera. And I didn't know I wanted to be a chef. I was a year out of college. I'd finished college, and I was still living in Ann Arbor, Michigan. I went to the University of Michigan. And when I was in college, I pursued everything. Should I become a doctor, a lawyer, a biological medical illustrator, because I was a good drawer of biology things, or should I be a teacher, because I'd always taught. Like when I was in New York City, I worked in the school volunteer program tutoring inner city kids. And I read every book about how did children learn, why did children fail, and all those books. But I hadn't pursued any of it. So I'm cooking in a bar. Meanwhile, I'd had several jobs cooking in college, living with my boyfriend. And my mom is horrified. She's like, this will not do. My daughter needs to have a career. Right. So she wrote, unbeknownst to me, to Craig Claiborne and Julia Child. Craig Claiborne, you know, but not everybody does, was the food editor of the New York Times and had written the New York Times cookbook that my mom and I had cooked all the way through when I was in high school. And then, of course, Julia's obvious. Well, Julia didn't write my mom back, which is odd, because Julia always wrote everybody back. She must not have gotten the letter. Yeah. But Craig did, and he said, if your daughter wants to become a chef, she should go to cooking school. She should either go to the hotel school in Lausanne, or she should go to the CIA. Okay. And I didn't want to go to Lausanne because I didn't want to leave my boyfriend and go that far. Right. So I applied to the Culinary Institute, and I thought, they won't accept me. I don't even know how to use a chef's knife. I mean, I was cooking, but I didn't know what I was doing. Right. And they accepted me, and I was like, oh, no. What do I do now? So I went to the boyfriend, and I said, I've gotten in, but I don't want to leave you. And he said, no, you should leave. I was like, what? He said, I want to see other women. I was like, what? Well, so that, I was shot out that door like a cannon. And, you know, the day that I stuck my toe in the front hall of the Culinary Institute, I was like, what was I waiting for? Wow. Meanwhile, that man is my husband of 30 years.
No, it's not. That was our building.
Young. You shouldn't settle down when you're that young. So he was right. He saw his ladies, and I went off to school with all these cute young chefs. Nice. So I had a good time. But meanwhile, I found myself. Oh, my goodness. What are they bringing? Wow.
This is our angry lobster.
I should say so.
And why is it angry?
We call it angry because it's made with crushed red pepper flakes, which give it a little heat. It also has parsley, butter. It's delicious.
Wow. Okay. So you know how you use these? We're both going to end up wearing this. I'm not kidding. I'm going to. I know. Here we go. Just like when you go to this lobster place. No,
I'm okay with this.
You know, and you get those plastic bibs. Okay.
Exactly.
So, well, that you can probably just pull out, and I can probably pull this one out. We may not need to use the little, but if you can't, we can crack it. And we should dip it back in the sauce. Wow. I love these little casseroles, don't you? How are you doing? Okay, yeah. You know what? Here's what you might want to do. Okay. Take this. Oops, this is when you asked me before, do I have asbestos fingers? I used to. Oh, I'm afraid I'm going to shoot this right over at you. There we go. Let's see if I can do this over here. It is hot. You're getting that hot pepper flakes. Okay. Go ahead, sneak in there. Woo. Nasal passages.
Really spicy?
Out. Mm-hmm. Good though.
Oh, that's amazing.
I love lobster. I think we have lots of food coming, so we got to be.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
This is our signature salad, the Tre Dici salad.
Oh yes, beautiful. I love that.
And inside out meatballs.
Oh my God, wow. Those are so good.
Looks amazing. And now, how did you and your family happen upon this restaurant?
Well, you know, it's funny, because I know
Thank you.
Sort of young people these days use Yelp. Us old folks, or more established folks, depending on how you want to look at us, still use Zagat. Okay. So I go to Zagat when I'm trying to get new ideas. And I generally go by the ratings on the food, and then I worry about the price later on. And so I was looking at our neighborhood, because a couple of our favorite restaurants had closed, and I came across this, and I was like, wow, that's got that high rating. I don't remember what it is. And it's just 2 blocks, you know, or so from our house. So we came in the first time, and I was like, wow, this is so great because it's such a little gem. It's so cozy. And the chef is so nice.
Yeah. This looks great. So this is, they said, the meatballs?
Yeah. I have to tell you a funny story. I had the chef on my show. And when I have a chef on my show, they have to make home recipes. Oh dear, what a slob. And it can't be fancy chefly stuff. Okay. It has to be home cooked stuff. So he made lamb chops on a tomato salad. They were wonderful. And he made this wonderful pasta dish with pesto. And he made tuna bruschetta. And he brought the tuna all the way from Italy. I mean, it was like the jarred tuna in oil. But he's making the pesto. Right. And he's just throwing things into the food processor, you know, and I'm like, so that was 4 cups of this, and, you know, I'm thinking about the person who's watching, and he's measuring nothing, and then the olive oil just goes chug-a-lug in, and then he said, just till there's a certain sound, he's like, that's it. I was like, that's it? He said, yes, it's perfect now. I said, it's perfect? I said, don't you want to taste it? He said, no. I was like, how do you know it's perfect? He said, I just know. So I tasted it, and it was perfect. I say that because I think there's some on top of here. Okay. But after we were done taping, I was like, how did you do that? Yeah. He said, well, I have to. I'm allergic to garlic. So, but the fact of the matter is, not only to be an Italian chef and be allergic to garlic, but also to know when it's perfect.
Well, that's amazing.
There he is. Hey, I know, I'm like a kid with this napkin. I know
How's everything?
Good. How are you?
Great seeing you.
This is Maya.
Hey, Maya. How are you?
Nice to meet you.
Yes. Welcome.
So,
hope you're enjoying everything so
oh
far.
my God. I don't think you give us enough food, though.
No.
Well, this is an Italian house.
Yeah, right.
The more is better.
Right.
I love this.
So, yeah, tell us about this big meatball.
Yeah.
Well, I think the trend in Manhattan, everyone has meatballs. So how do you make your meatball stand out
Ah!
to
I'm
the
sure
next
you
guy?
lie awake at night thinking about these things.
Well, I mean, it's one of the things of being a chef. You always have to reinvent the same thing over and over again. So just came up with an idea of just stuffing it and see how it came out. And we called it the meatball parm. And that's
It's
what,
so
and
good.
that's
It
our
is
rendition.
amazing, perfectly cooked. It's really fantastic. Can you tell us about this dish?
It's a fun dish. It's the lobster arrabbiata. So we translate it. We call it the angry lobster. We do some fried garlic, pepper flakes. We throw a little corn in there from it's a little sweet corn, and we put right at the end put a little bit of lemon juice,
Okay.
just to tone down the heat, just a little bit, and it's great. I mean, people love to dip their bread in there, you know, at the end because there's so much flavor, the extra virgin olive oil and the lemon juice, and just the juice from the lobster itself.
That's fantastic. How was it being on Sarah's show? How did you feel working with her on one of the segments you guys did together? She told us a little bit about your garlic allergy, but how perfect your pesto is. How was it like working with Sarah on her show?
It was intimidating
Oh yeah.
because me talking with Sarah, you know, face to face on a table, you see one person,
Yeah.
but then when you walked in the kitchen, you had that other animal. And it was a shot. Well,
Excuse me. I mean, I turned into a monster?
not a monster.
She's like a maestro.
but yes,
She's
very
really
professional,
right,
very,
that's nice.
very direct. This is what we're gonna do. This is how we're gonna do it, and it was wonderful. It was such a great experience.
He was a natural.
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to do.
Well, thank you so much for making this amazing, amazing food. I
hope you have
I'll
save room. There's
definitely-
more.
Oh, dear,
well,
yeah.
good. And I'll definitely come back here. This was a great recommendation.
Very romantic, too.
It is very romantic. Ooh.
This is our Kobe beef ravioli.
Ooh,
It's a house
looks
specialty.
Beautiful. It smells amazing.
It's a blend of
Oh, wow. Gosh.
Kobe. There are two different types of Kobe cuts that we do here. I mean that we macerate here and finish with a little veal reduction.
Ooh, yummy. Wow,
Very
and
exciting.
you make the ravioli,
Oh, we-
I mean, yourself.
Yep, and
Pasta.
and in the filling there's a little bit of fontina from Valdosta, so you know you get that little pull of cheese. And it just adds just a little hint of sweetness.
Oh, wow.
That is amazing.
I always
Yeah.
like that little pull of cheese, yes.
It's absolutely beautiful. This has to be very popular on your menu.
This is probably our most popular dish, but definitely our most popular pasta, without a doubt. So for those who want to come in for a steak but maybe don't feel like the steak, they'll go for this.
It's fantastic.
Like I said, the best place to go, besides the fact that food is incredible, I said I found it in Zagat, you know, the first time. But the best place to go is always the place where you know the chef, because they'll always take good care of you.
Yeah.
And they always do.
I really thank you. Thank you so much, Giuseppe. This was really
My
fantastic.
pleasure.
I
Thank you so
appreciate
much for coming.
it. Absolutely.
Again.
Thank you.